We all know William Shakespeare, the most famous author of all time, writer of 37 plays, 154 sonnets, several epic poems, and why we are here today. But what if I told you Shakespeare never wrote a single word?
I'm Jonathan W. Hickman, and you're watching The Film Fix. This week we are broadcasting from Scott's Bookstore in downtown Noonan, and I'm joined by a special guest that joined us last year for the Dragon Tattoo show that we did, Earlene Scott. And a little later we're going to talk with Keith Dunnavant, who is a noted sports author who's got a big book called America's Quarterback coming out in September. So we just watched a clip from a movie that looks pretty interesting. It's called Anonymous. Mm-hmm. It takes the position that Shakespeare, the plays of Shakespeare, were written by the Earl of Oxford. And I don't know, have you had anyone come in and ask for Shakespeare?
Not really, unless the kids are having to read it at school. If it's on their reading list, they come in and buy it. But other than that, no.
Yeah, and that's
but
it.
We keep it in stock all the time,
sure.
Any Shakespeare, but not really.
Well, you might get a run at Shakespeare because this is a political thriller, and it takes time. It takes takes place at the time of Queen. I think it's Queen Elizabeth I, and she's played by Vanessa Redgrave in the
would be a great movie.
Yeah, it very well might be. A little bit about Miss Scott. Of course, I told you guys last year that Miss Scott is perhaps one of my favorite people in the world. Over the years, I have developed such a good friendship with Mrs. Scott. And years ago, you used to collect all of my comic books for me in the 1980s, and just really enjoyed it. But one thing people might not know about you is that you're a big HBO fan, and there's one show in particular called True Blood that you are a big fan of.
Yes, I love True Blood. And of course it's made in Atlanta, so I keep up with where it's...
Well, actually, Vampire Diaries is the Atlanta one, and I believe it's Louisiana for True Blood, isn't it?
True.
That's right, because I know you were saying...
But I keep up with both, because the Vampire Diaries is done in a house in Atlanta that's close to where my daughter works.
Yes, you were telling me about that.
And she knows the house, and I've been on a tour of it, and very interesting. So, but the vampire books are really selling. The Twilight started it.
And what are the other vampire books we can look at?
Well, of course, there's always new vampire books. There's one called by Allison Noel, Dark Flame, which has been very popular. Everybody loves Charlene Harris, which is the True Blood series.
Yes. And
she has probably about 12 books out now. And that's what True Blood is based on. So we have the whole series of her books. And also Once in a Full Moon is a new one that has just come out. And but we keep most of the popular vampire books, even the Anne Rice from years ago.
Of course, there was the Interview with the Vampire movie.
And they did quite a few movies of her books, and most of them, I think, were made in New Orleans, where she lived.
Queen of the Damned, they did that one. What do you have a comment on? I know you really like True Blood, and I got to get your thoughts on where you think the series is going, and give us some thought on that.
That's a good question. I enjoy watching it, but I have no idea where it's going. It's
Well, maybe
just
that's why you like it.
that's why I like it. Surprise, suspense. Can't wait to see the next one. So it will be starting up again soon, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one of the things that makes Scott's Bookstore so special is that you can actually see and talk with the writers as they come in. And we have one of the writers right over here, Keith
Yes.
Dunnavant. But you have an author coming in on August 31st.
I do. Dot Moore will be in to sign her new book on John Wallace, and everybody will remember John Wallace was in Murder in Katy County. And he was the one that committed the murder, and they made a movie of Murder in Katy County, of course. And Dot has been working on this book for several years, and it will start with Wallace as a child growing up, and not just mainly, on the murder. It's going to be, childhood growing up in Meriwether County. So we look forward to Dot coming in from 3 to 5 on next Wednesday, 31st. And
I know Murder in Coweta County is still a seller for you.
Oh,
You keep it in
yes,
stock
we keep
here.
it in stock, and it's a very popular book.
And one of the things that has eluded people is that Murder in Coweta County, the movie that was made for television that had Andy Griffith and Johnny Cash, it's not really available very widely. And I know you had some of the movie in at one point years ago.
We did carry the movie, but now we cannot get it, and I think they can go online, and the prices are just way up.
Yeah, it's outrageous,
It's-
and you don't know whether or not it's a legitimate copy.
No.
Yeah.
But Murder in Katy County is very popular, and they're talking about doing a play over at the old courthouse in the courtroom where the murder trial took place. So if they can get that in the works, that will be a great event for downtown Union.
Oh, I think that would be wonderful. So one of the authors that is going to come and visit with you, and he's visiting with us now in September. And what date is it going to be that
The
Keith will be in?
The 12th from 3 to 5.
Okay, so from 3 to 5 on September 12th, Keith Dunnavant will be here, and he'll be talking about his book on Bart Starr called America's Quarterback.
Yes.
And just to give a little of the history of Keith and Scott's Bookstore, you were so kind from your archives to procure an old photograph of Keith that was
I feel like I'm
taken.
on This Is Your Life.
And, yes, exactly right. And this is just wonderful. This was taken locally by Bob Shapiro, who is still taking photographs here locally. And it is the Coach, when you were with Simon & Schuster, with your Coach book, Keith. And I just thought I'd give it to you, and we'd get just let you take a look at it, and we could get a
Yes.
comparison of you then and now. But Keith, you have had a long history with Miss Scott, and
Absolutely.
you are now going forward with perhaps your biggest book to date, America's Quarterback. And I know this is a long time coming for you. And can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Absolutely.
And what people should be looking for?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's my pleasure to come to Mrs. Scott's store.
You go ahead and take the mic.
I support independent booksellers across the country,
We
and
appreciate that.
I literally, this is going to be our first appearance
Sure.
before we go to Birmingham and Milwaukee and Green Bay, and we're starting it off right here in downtown Noonan. So it's
We
my
look
pleasure.
forward to it.
My pleasure to do that. America's Quarterback is a book about, obviously, Bart Starr, the greatest, the winningest quarterback in the history of the National Football League. Whether he was the greatest or not depends upon your definition, but he was the most successful quarterback in the history of the National Football League. He won 5 NFL championships in 7 years. But as anybody who knows, who reads my books, I like to write books that in which sports intersects with culture. And this is yet another example of that. He really represented something about the country. He was a 17th round draft pick who was not supposed to make it. Nobody gave him any prayer of making it in Green Bay. His father doubted him. All of the Green Bay establishment doubted him, including Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi wanted to trade him at one point,
The iconic coach.
The iconic coach, the greatest coach in NFL history, didn't believe in him at the beginning. But eventually, he, with hard work and perseverance, he proved himself, and really, I believe, represented the best of overachievement in this country.
I agree.
Now, of course, he was
Very good
he was
book.
the University of Alabama quarterback. Went on and was it Super Bowl 1 and 2?
He was the MVP of Super Bowls 1 and 2.
That's just an amazing accomplishment, and people these days don't really appreciate the history of the NFL and how he was such a pioneer.